I think there's a lot of people going locums for sure. I went to 99 right away, not necessarily a locum job, but so I'm committed right to that. Hi.
Hey,
Hi,
how you guys?
how are you?
Busy day,
Good.
busy day. How you guys?
Good, good.
Good, good. Can you hear
Good.
us?
Yeah.
Well,
Mm.
all right. So
Perfect.
we'll get started. All righty. Good afternoon. Happy Thursday. First of all, I'd like to thank you guys for joining me on the live today. I know you guys have a very busy schedule, especially the SRNA schedule. I know that can be a lot.
Yes, girl.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Melanie Sarabia. I'm a CRNA, and joining us today we have Amanda, Sarah, and Courtney. We will be talking about a growing presence in our profession, which is influencers in the anesthesia space. So whether you're an SRNA trying to find new study tips or ways to set up for clinical, or a CRNA looking for job opportunities or professional growth overall, I think social media has become a very powerful tool for us for education, advocacy, and networking. So, with that being said, if you guys can start off with a little introduction and mention what made you decide to become a CRNA in the first place. Whoever wants to start.
I can
I'll
start.
go first. You want to go?
Bye, girl.
Okay.
No, you
I'm
go.
Go, girl.
Courtney.
Go, girl.
I'm Courtney Lamb. I'm a second year SRNA. I've been a nurse for about 13 years now. I decided to go to CRNA school because I was looking for, of course, like a more autonomy. I've done a few different things in nursing. I just really couldn't find what like filled my tank. So I knew I wanted to be able to make my own decisions, have a little bit more autonomy over care. And so that kind of like drove me to actually going to CRNA school.
That's great. Sarah?
Um, for me, it was probably just about thinking in my future as, let's see, how old was I when I first got in? I think I was 27 at the time. So I hadn't had kids yet. I knew I wanted kids. So I was kind of thinking of, do I want to do bedside forever? And then I also knew, like, how valuable is my time to me? So how much was I going to make hourly? Like money, people don't like to talk about how important the money is. It really is. I tell people your time is your most valuable asset.
1000%.
So the amount of time that I'm going to be gone from my kids, I want it to make the most money I can. I don't know how to put that. So that was kind of like a nursing career. Anesthesia was that route. And then before that, I was actually I was in nursing school in the ICU. And I never forget, like a code was called and the CRNA came in and she was like totally BA, like I was like, who is that? And of course, it's a female and she comes in, like runs the code, intubates the patient, and not even really knowing what a CRNA was. When I was in nursing school, I was like, I'm going to be her. I don't know what she is or how to get there. I'm going to be her. It was just really inspiring because it was also like you got to do more. It was very like kind of like what you were talking, like you do a lot more, So I kind of like the hands on, then also just made sense practically for me.
That's a great story. And I like that you're keeping it honest about the finances of it because
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
people are just like, yeah, I mean, you want to love what you do, obviously, because it
yeah.
still has its days that are difficult. And, people love to make anesthesia jokes about how,
Oh
we don't do
yeah.
anything, but it has its days. It has its
Yeah.
days like everything else. But the finances are a very real part of it. And if anybody who says that it's not, then, you're clearly not being
Right.
honest about
Seriously.
it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Amanda, you?
So I just always knew from like the first day of nursing school, I wanted like higher education. Like I always knew I wanted to just go somewhere. I just didn't know where that was. So I just, kept my eyes open, kept my ears to the streets as I was like, building my nursing career. I did travel nursing, and I actually was going to go the NP route. I got into NP school and it just did not feel right in my body. Like I'm like, I just
Mm.
don't think this is it. This isn't the time. So I declined that. I went back out traveling. And then literally one of my girlfriends called me who I work trauma with. And she was like, I hadn't talked to her in years. And she was like, hey, I'm in CRNA school all the way on the East Coast. I feel like this would be perfect for you. Like, it's so you. And
How
I was like,
cool.
really? She's like, yeah. And so I said, okay. And so I shadowed some people at my hospital, retook the organic chem, biochem, CCRN, CEN, and then applied. But like, she literally was like, this is just for you. And then when I did my investigating, I was like, oh my God, she's right. Like,
That's
this would be
awesome.
the perfect blend of, like, you know, I was always trauma nurse. I love being, I think my whole call to nursing was being the calm person in the middle of the storm. Like, I feel like that's
Yeah.
why I'm a nurse. And I was like, oh my God, that's literally anesthesia. So,
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's funny you mentioned the NP thing because I actually applied. I was undecided between critical care NP or CRNA. So I actually was like, let me just apply to both. And I got into the MP school first, but I hadn't heard back from anesthesia. And I mean, I accepted, paid the 1,500 deposit, and then they accepted me into anesthesia school. And that's when I knew I was like, I was more excited when they
You
accepted me
wanted
into
to, yeah.
anesthesia. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going here. I don't care if I lost the 1,500. The beginning of my debt started
I know,
Yeah.
getting up the pile.
Gosh.
there. So, what inspired you guys to start sharing your anesthesia journey on social media?
For me, I've kind of been sharing my journey like through nursing, so it kind of started there. And my page is like more focused towards education. I have a master's in nurse education, so I just wanted to just create a space for nurses to go to find educational information. I was a director before, and I noticed that a lot of people I interviewed always constantly said they looked at social media for education. So I was like, well, how do you know if these people are telling you valid information? So that kind of like geared me up on like sharing things about education on my page, and that's where it kind of sparked that.
That's great. And we did have a question I just wanted to answer real quick. Currently in SRNA, do you recommend going to an independent facility right out of school? So I think it all depends how you feel. I don't know if you guys agree. It depends how you feel when you graduate, depending the school, the experience you had as an SRNA. Not all schools provide the same opportunities as far as certain sites may have more OB heavy or peds, depends what you want to go to. I think if you feel very confident in your skills and you trained a lot, especially as a resident on your own, because I know some are a lot more medical direction heavy and they're kind of always holding your hand. So maybe you didn't get that experience. If that's the case, I think you should start off with either direction or just supervision, but for sure having MDs available because you might want to slowly get into that versus just jumping into independent. But I do know a lot of people who did CRNA school, for example, like in Arizona, and they had a lot of independent practice facilities as their clinical sites. I didn't get that experience. I'm from Florida, very restricted practice. So if that's the case, I know a lot of people felt really comfortable straight out of school. And obviously be honest about where you're at and your level and if you're a person who's good outside of their comfort zone. Have you done travel assignments before, things like that, where maybe you don't know people and you're okay with that and you grow in those type of environments. That's what I think. You guys can piggyback on that.
I don't think you will grow in your practice until you do it. Like if you have any inkling of wanting to do it, do it. Now I will say, no, I did it, and sometimes I can be a blindly confident person, but I also am very okay with that. I remember when I started, I said, "Hey, like, so you guys, I can text you, I can call you if I have any questions." Like I had a lot of help and support from other CRNAs in my group. So if you're going to like, I don't know if I would do one of those places where you're like 3 weeks on by yourself with
Right,
nobody to ask any questions. Remember the
right.
first time the ER, I'm in a small hospital. So the first time the ER called me to drop a central line by myself, it was like, I was like 3 months into my first job. And I'm like, I know how to do this. I've done this so many times, but I always had someone over my shoulder. I always had like, don't forget this and this, like, don't. So that was like, I got this, but I had my other CRNA. I texted, okay, I'm like, hey, I got called. So support is important,
Right.
but you'll never grow until you do it. So if you have any like desire to try it, do it. That's what I would say.
I
Yeah.
like the support piece. I think the support piece is huge because
Yeah.
like I took my first job in a hospital, but it was very autonomous and these patients were sick. I mean, they were
See that?
sick,
Yeah.
not a lot of, you know what I mean? But like I
Mm-hmm.
love the fact that even like I had CRN, like I had really a solid group of CRNAs that like held my hand and we like went through it together. And again, I think it does also, like you said too, it really depends on your training, like how much you were kind of able, like, you know, luckily, I mean, I went to Africa at the end and gave anesthesia by myself. Like at the end of my training,
cool.
we did a lot of MAC. Like I felt really good with MACs and different things. So I think a lot of it depends on that, but I also agree, like you have to know yourself. You have to know how you have to be able to communicate with surgeons. You have to know how to communicate with everybody. You have to be able to, you know, have the balls to cancel cases, you know, like you just have to be able to just put yourself out there, go for it, and be strong in your foundational skill set.
Be confident, because
Yes, you
sometimes
have
you're
to.
straight out of school, you're like, am I making, you know, like you start second guessing yourself, because again, it's the first day in a new role, and it's normal to kind of like in your head, but if you give any inkling that you don't know what you're doing, everybody feeds off that energy. So
They
that is
do. That's
definitely,
so true.
That's
they're
so
like, oh,
true.
this person doesn't know. They could not know that what you're doing is wrong, but you seem confident about it. They're like, she must be right, I guess.
So true. You got to clench your butt and just
Yeah.
run the room.
I don't
I
like the
haven't
term
got
fake it till you make it,
I
but
haven't got to clinicals
it's
yet.
kind of true a little bit.
You
My
haven't
bad.
what?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I
Oh,
said
go
I
ahead.
haven't got to clinicals yet. I start clinicals this month, so I'm really looking forward to that.
Oh
Good
my
luck.
Yes.
Do it.
God.
It's stressful. Just show up.
Yes.
Just go.
Yes.
Flexible. Just be
Your
flexible.
e
Hold on.
ego is non-existent. You're right. I'm
Yes.
wrong. I'm stupid. You're right.
Next,
Thank
Hide
please.
you
in the
Come again.
guys.
closet when the,
Yeah. And I tell a lot of people, I think making it through CRNA school is probably like 60 or 70% you knowing how to read a room and being
Mhm.
a good communicator. Because you cannot know the answer to a question, and if you are respectful and always a team player, hard worker, that goes a long way. They will appreciate the fact that you didn't know the answer, but you were ready in the morning, you had everything set up, you know, were engaging, asking questions. Like they know that there's going to be things that you don't know. They just want to know how you respond to that. But if
or
they
if
see you like, oh, you're a know-it-all,
yes,
whatever,
that's
that's
the
that's
worst.
that's number one. You're
Yes.
probably getting kicked out of clinical, you know? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, of course. How do you guys feel that being in the influencer space has impacted your career, or Courtney, for you, like your journey in school?
I have made so many connections off of social media, Instagram particularly, just within the CRNA community, and it's been like so eye-opening, like how small and knit the community is. So it's really been great. I've gotten like such positive feedback just from everybody that I've like ran into. So it's really helped me a lot. I don't know. I'm just very thankful to be able to like spread the information, and it's just been really nice. So
That's nice. Yeah, it is. It is definitely a lot smaller. We thought nursing was small community, right? But anesthesia is way smaller. Yeah. How about you guys? Do you feel it has impacted your CRNA career in a positive way?
Go ahead, Amanda.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think so. I feel like most of my coworkers are really supportive of it. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the circulators I work with and scrub techs and everything is super supportive. I think again, it's given me really good connections. Like I had somebody, a CRNA, say, "Hey, you're out in the Chicago area. I'm opening this plastics place. Would you mind jumping in?" You know what I mean? So what I
Mm-hmm.
think, like you said too, like the connections. I mean, even meeting, like, you know, me and Sarah have had conversations about being moms and see, you know what I mean? You see the people going through it. So I really think the connection aspect is just the best of it all. And then again, just obviously I do a lot of coaching and a lot of mentoring. So just all the people, I think I've built my entire business just off Instagram, just connecting with people. And I love the people in my circle, and gotten to know so many people and their stories that sometimes it actually like propels me, like it makes me love my job as a CRNA and stuff even more, you know, just hearing other people and their passion for it. And so yeah.
For me, yeah, definitely a positive. I don't think I would still be doing it if it wasn't like a positive. There's downsides.
Right.
There's downsides to everything, and I hate to say But there is, and we'll probably get to some of the downsides. But I think the positive, kind of like what Amanda said for me, is just like the connections you get to make with people. I don't know about you girls, but I know for me, like when I first started, it was really hard to really get like good advice from seasoned people. Like I didn't know a lot of CRNAs, and I feel like a lot of the CRNAs that I would shadow or whatever, like their view is like, you got to go through what we went through.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I love now being able to just be a source of encouragement. Like now, like I'll be honest, like I get a lot of DMs, so I'm not always able to answer everyone's questions like in depth, but there are some people that I'm really able to help. It's not like my business, it's really just my personal, like this is how I can kind of give back to the ones after me community, and I love being able to do that. My husband's always like, you should start a consulting business or something. I'm like, I really just like it that it's me and it's like genuine and it's not, and I also am doing so much other stuff. So but yeah, I think it's been really beneficial. It was really cool. So my facility, we did precept for students. Currently right now they don't, but I go to a couple other places every once in a while that do. And the one place that I precepted, like 8 months later, I went and had my third baby at another hospital, and she actually gave me my
Oh,
epidural.
wow.
It was such a cool full
Awesome.
circle moment. It was a completely different facility, but it was just really cool. And she was like, "Oh my gosh," she was like so excited. And I was like, the impact I've been able to have just by like spending a day with her. But then also she had said, we love your social media. Like all of us students, we love it. All this stuff. And it's just like, I kind of forget a little bit, honestly, because I'm just a normal person. I live my life. I don't, I post stuff and I go, but I love being able just to really inspire, encourage, and just communicate just maybe in ways that maybe like I didn't have when I was going through some of that.
Yeah, I love
I
that.
agree.
And I love taking that approach versus the nurses eat their young approach that we've all dealt
Ew.
with. I think it's so toxic
So
and
bad.
it's there's no space for it,
I'm
I
so over
think
toxic. So
you would want that support, just because you didn't have it doesn't mean you shouldn't offer it to other people,
Gosh.
So
I've had two students that I precepted that I was legit like, they need to be kicked out of this program because like it's almost like they're very, very privileged. They showed up like 5 minutes before the case started,
oh wow.
like horrible, like egregiously bad. But besides that, I'm like, people love being in my room. It's like, do as much as you feel comfortable. Let me help. Let me encourage you. No
Right.
big deal. It's like no pressure. Just learn.
Speaking of the downfalls, do you guys ever experience creator burnout? And if you do, how do you manage that situation?
For me, I think sometimes I find it's hard to like create new content or new information that's not out there. And it's time consuming. And given that I'm a student, I have two kids, I have a husband, I have like all these other things. So it's a lot. And then you get offered to do so many different things off of social media. So you have to get to a place where you're like, no, I can't take on anything else. So yes, I have experienced burnout. You probably can tell when I'm burned out because I'm not on as much or as frequently, so I just take a step back from it. I'm starting to be a lot more mindful with what I say yes to versus like, no, I can't take this on. So for me, yeah, I have experienced burned out with Instagram.
yeah,
God,
I
Amanda.
feel the same. Like I think actually the year I was pregnant, like 2023, I was pregnant most of the year and it was just a rough pregnancy. I did not feel like myself. It like felt like lifting 1,000 pounds to post. Like I just was
Yeah.
like, ugh. Like I was like every like if I put up like two stories, it literally felt like so heavy. So that was just, I mean, I was pregnant, whatever. Like it just was, I was not my highest self at that moment. So that was kind of like a rough year. But what was cool is that I basically kept everything going by like referrals. Like everyone was like, you know what I mean? Which was like, so I was like, wow, this is great. I'm still connecting with new people and stuff. But yeah, sometimes I do. I feel like I just feel like social media can be a lot. And so don't really post a lot on the weekends, or I'll do here and there. And if I'm just not feeling it, I just don't post and I just don't make it mean anything about me or anything. You know what I mean? If I'm not feeling it, I just don't post and people know I'm here and they can still DM me. But I feel like the more I think all of us show up consistently enough, that like you really don't, I don't think you have to post 24/7 all the time, all the time. You know what I mean? Like you just show up consistently enough. And I feel like that's enough, because social media can be a lot sometimes.
Yeah. I would like to say that you guys are superheroes for handling all that and having kids. That, I mean, hats off to you. That's a feat for sure. For sure. Do you feel like maybe setting, or if you guys have done this, like setting realistic expectations as far as like, okay, or a schedule, like maybe I'm going to post this amount of times this week, or like that way you don't feel overwhelmed with like, "Ah, I have to post this amount of stuff," kind of creating a schedule like you would for school or something like that, like a plan of what kind of content you're gonna create or what kind of content you're gonna post this week or something like that.
I've like tried to make myself so many times be like this, that, and it doesn't feel as authentic.
Mm,
And then like you get these ideas and then it messes everything up and you're just like, what am I will say one thing for me, as I've done it for a few years, when I first started doing it, it was like anesthesia heavy content. I actually really started with YouTube and I did a lot of like day in the life and stuff like I kind of had and then I've kind of gotten more like, I feel like there's, like you said, Courtney, there's so much education and I enjoy it, but it's not my passion. I just want other people to feel like heard and seen and educated, and also like patience. They're like, we've never seen the inside of OR. What am I going to expect? What's it going to be like? So I really enjoy sharing like just more that kind of content. But I will say, um, managing it is really just how I feel. And I will say, I really tried to hone one thing I'm like really trying to focus on, and kind of as I plan more like for the future, like what am I giving my audience? Like what problem am I solving for them? So and I don't like, I'm not so niche down as like Courtney would be or Amanda, but it's like still like what can I provide for them as a working woman or a mom or an entrepreneur or a SRNA or a student or a nurse, so my mindset kind of tries to like categorize like that. How can I provide and fill a need that maybe some of my followers have?
yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it. Like, what are the needs, or what do you see that maybe people are constantly
Yeah.
DMing you about or
Yeah, that's the thing.
asking questions
DMs.
about? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
sometimes I'll be like, okay, I've got 100 questions about my humidifier. I'm like, it's like, what? Like, who cares?
Gotta
That's what
post
people like.
on
And
it.
I'm the same way. I'll be following someone else and be like, oh my gosh, where did you get that? Whatever, It's
Right,
like,
right, right, right.
yeah,
I mean, we should always share the knowledge. That's how I feel.
yeah,
Mhm.
for sure.
Do
Absolutely.
you think that social media is changing the perception of CRNAs in the healthcare industry today?
Depends how old they are.
True.
Sorry,
Yeah,
had to say it.
yeah.
It depends like what age category they are
Yeah.
in. In my experience, like my coworkers could care less. Like
That's true.
whatever. Like my coworkers care less. But like you go on those, I hardly even go on them anymore. The Facebook forums. It's just
Oh,
like,
too much.
oh my gosh. I'm like, either they're like extremely like, I wish I could do that, but I don't want to put in the work to do it. So it's bad. I
Hmm.
feel like our younger generation, I think, is super chill. It's super cool. Education puts the vibe out there. Like we're CRNAs. We're, like get to know us. This is how we're different than AAs. This is how we're
Hmm.
different than anesthesiologists. I mean, I've been on Reddit pages from MDs saying she's trying to be a doctor, or
Mm.
it's just it
Talk
is.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like people are gonna say what they want to say. I think that the CRNAs that have a hard time with it, they're just so uncomfortable. It's like the same thing. It's like I'll have with social media, you have to have thick skin. I can't tell you. Like I've had people have been like, "Do you just like love yourself? Because like you just like want to take pictures and videos. Like they just don't get it. So
Right, right.
and that's okay. It's okay if you have a hard time, but I think it's a
Yeah,
generational thing.
if you just listen to the message, you'll know that it's about getting out to the
Right.
people and educating them. I,
Hmm.
I agree with what you say about the younger generation, but I think what's great about the fact that it's not only Instagram, you have YouTube, TikTok, all these things. Sometimes there's older people on there and not necessarily anesthesia professionals, but for a long time there has been this kind of understanding about, like, or misunderstanding, shall I say, about what CRNAs actually do, or what is a CRNA. Like, you say that CRNA and they're like, I don't know what you're talking
What
about.
is that?
But
Yeah.
I think it's
Hmm.
I think it's a great opportunity to educate people about where we stand as far as are we physicians? No, we're not, but we do have a doctorate degree, and that becomes very confusing to people. So it's a great way to explain it, like correct misconceptions. We
Yep.
do have full independent practice. We have that authority. It changes state by state. These little things that, they may not understand. They just see us as someone who's under, the attending. And it varies depending where you are and how the viewpoint is. But I think it's very important to get the information out there. We are in our own lane. We
Right.
we
Yeah.
we
Absolutely.
paved our own way.
Yeah. And I think it makes
And
it feel like, I feel like for nurses and people, I feel like seeing like CRNAs and SRNAs, RNAs on social media, I feel like it makes it seem like I can do that. Like I can see myself in that. I can do that more. And I think that's what I really love about it, is it's like I had this dream, it kind of died, but then I follow you, I follow so and
Mm-hmm.
so, and like, you know what I mean? And it's just like I feel like that's so cool that people are like, wait a second, look at them do it. I can
right.
see myself in that. So I think that's like a cool thing about it.
That's for me
1,000%.
too as well. Like I try to keep my page like vulnerable, and just tell my story, where I came from, where I'm going, just to inspire other people because
Yeah.
all of our journeys are different.
So
Yeah.
We
different.
all come from different walks of life. So if you just get
Mm-hmm.
on social media and you see that one person that inspires you, you never know like where you will end up. So I like to just show my life, especially like in my stories. I think it's as you guys were saying, like it's hard to plan out content because you just want it to be authentic, and you have like these ideas that you want to do and you just do them in the moment. But when I try to sit down and like batch create stuff, like I get a
Can't
brain
do it.
freeze. I can't do it like that. So it's just like what I feel, what people are looking for, what people are searching for, and I just go from there. So I try my best to post, a certain time per week. But if I get to it, I do. If I don't, I don't.
Yeah.
I will also say, like, when I was first trying to, like, when I started from hardly any followers, just like my friends and stuff, you do have to have like, I had a certain time every single day, couldn't miss a day, because the algorithm did this and the algorithm did this, like, I don't really care about that anymore. Like, my goal is not to get a million followers. I just
Right.
don't care. Like, I'm happy with where I'm at. Like, so if more come, great. If not, like, I think the big thing that I like my culture. You come to my page, I want you to see family. I want you to see fun. I want you to see career driven. I want you to see educated. My faith is super. And so I have everything that's important to me. So it's kind of like, don't be here if you don't want to be here. I'm not just trying to get one thing, but yeah. So just kind of creating a more of like an environment too.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And what do you think would be the best piece of advice you could give to other CRNAs and RNAs who want to build a personal brand and get into this content space?
Get thick skin.
And just be yourself, like be authentic. There's so many
Yeah.
people trying to be other people, and it's like like we can all see right through that. I think when you're just yourself and sharing what you're comfortable with, I mean, there is a piece of vulnerability. I mean, I do share a lot, but there's some stuff that is not shared. But I think just really being yourself. And I think the big thing for me is I started out very consistently with, like, I had like Drug Wednesday, I had like new
Yeah.
video
Yeah.
front, like I did,
Exactly.
yeah, you know what I mean, like I started with that and I was very on it. I did a lot of day in the lives, when I was like doing a lot of 24-hour call consistently. And then, but I think what I've learned to do is, like what you guys have also said, is listen to what people need. Like the people that are DMing you, the people that are that, like if you listen to what people really need and what they're saying, like that's where I've kind of shifted my content into, is like doing that. So
Love
it's
that.
really just, it's about connection. Like
Mhm.
I think that's life, right? It's about
Mm-hmm.
being
Yeah.
humans, connecting with people, being legit. I mean, I hope I make it clear on my page, I do not have it all together. I do not have the perfect life by any means. Like I
Right.
do a little bit more on wellness about like my mom life or
Mhm.
whatever. But none of us here have got it all figured out. You know what I mean? So it's just like the more real you can be and the more you can just connect with the humanity of people, I think that's really how you build your brand and build your page.
Yeah.
No, I think you got it right. Just staying engaged with your audience. a lot of the people you're communicating with, you were in their footsteps before, just letting them know, like, hey, I went through the same thing. Like, I
Right.
understand. People love feeling like, when you're going through something like, oh wow, like I'm not the only one who's going through that. That makes me feel so much better. Like you missed that intubation too. I feel so much better. It makes me feel great, knowing that there's other people who have the same questions or, want the same things, have the same goals, and there's a community for it. So I think that's very important.
I don't think when I was in anesthesia school, I don't think I followed anyone on social media that was
No,
like in the anesthesia world, like none. And I think back to
no.
some experiences I had. I wish I would have had someone to reach out to. Like I was physically attacked by a doctor in one of my rotations, and my preceptor was one of the head up of my school. They didn't want to cause an issue for the location. Like I got caught in this a level one trauma center, got caught into the head of the hospital had me in his office trying to make me feel like we were dealing with it, but really what they were doing was trying to make me not sue them. But I was so emotional, like under so much duress, I just didn't know what to do, and I just wanted it to go away. I just wanted it to go away. I didn't want to get kicked out of the program. I was so just tired and exhausted. And I'm like, so I just did whatever they told me to. But like those kind of scenarios is like people need to be able to have a way to like, is this right? What should I do? I need some advice. So I love there's a lot of us now on social media, and we all have different walks of life, different ages, different backgrounds, everything. And I love that for people.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that happened to you.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good learning. I say you
Yeah.
always learn the most from hard scenarios, and that was a big learning time for me, for sure.
Yeah.
agreed.
That's rough.
And one thing I wanted to touch up on, because I know now that Courtney said you're starting clinical soon. Um, what advice do you guys have? And I guess I'll pitch in on that too, of being a content creator and being on social media while navigating being a clinical. Because I will tell you, there are very petty people in anesthesia, just like there were in nursing. So at least my portion.
You,
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay,
You
sorry, I
know.
cut
Yeah,
out
you
for a
cut out
second.
for a second.
Yeah. Um, I think the main thing is to obviously you're not going to violate HIPAA and do, anything crazy where, you're exposing anything that obviously would be illegal, but just not sharing everything with everyone because people will take any little thing and because they don't like you or because they don't want to see you succeed because you're a CRNA, maybe they wanted to be a CRNA and they're not. And they will take that and try to create problems for you, unnecessarily. So I'd say be careful with who to trust. Actually, don't trust anyone. That's my advice. Don't
Alex,
trust anyone when you're in school. That, boundaries. Like people could seem extremely friendly. That doesn't mean they're your friend. And I'm sure you've learned this other times in life, but it becomes more critical when, you're trying to do everything to avoid getting in any sort of trouble, even if you didn't do anything wrong per se. But there are people out there who will try to create issues for you.
Yeah.
I would say just also like stay in the bounds of make sure anything you post, you're okay with the head of that facility and the head of your school program sitting right next to you watching it because you are under a spotlight. Like as a CRNA, I'm like, I do what I want.
Hmm.
You want to, like, I like as a student, and this is all as not just Courtney, but I'm sorry, like everyone out there, it's like you are under a microscope and you are judged more harshly than other people. So, and also like a couple things, like let's say if I were just to be judgmental towards an SRNA that is an influencer doing social, I'd be like, where do you have the time for that? Like, are you getting 100%? Like that's the mindset that people go like, well, why are you doing that? You should be spending more time on this. You just didn't know that answer. So why are you spending your time on social media? You should be studying or, so like people are going to get petty like that. So just kind of, you got to think through that too. I don't know if it's the best time to start. Like, I mean, obviously Courtney started before. She had a bunch of stuff before, but I don't know if
Right.
it's the best time to start.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm always, and thank you guys so much for the advice. Like, I'm very mindful of what I post because I have experienced the backlash of like, people not being for you. So
Yeah.
I'm always very critical when I post things. Is this something that somebody could come back and try to hold against me or retaliate against me? And it's very tough being on social media because you always have like positive vibes or thoughts when you're posting things. You're only trying to help people out. And I experienced it when I like very first quarter of school. So ever since that experience, I have definitely like kind of like taken a, I don't want to say a back seat, but I'm very extremely mindful of what goes on because we know that it can never come down. So I appreciate it. And it's very tough being an SRNA because you just want to help other SRNAs. You want to help other nurses. And that's usually pretty much our intention of being on here. And we don't want to bring any distractions to ourselves or any more spotlight to ourselves. But that's what you get when you're on social media, just posting, you know?
Yeah. And I would say too, just know, obviously, just be clear on your school's policies. You know, there's been like incidences I've known of, so just knowing what their policies are. And as long as you follow that, and again, I love what Sarah said, if you sat down with the top of the tops and you were okay with them seeing, you know, I like that. Like that's kind of a good thing to put it through. But I think again, yeah, I mean, all you want to do is help and show others that it can be done. Like I'm doing this, I'm walking this, you can walk it too. But yeah, just know, I would just say know the policies, know what your policies are, and then just follow
And
them.
the hospital too, like one of the facilities I work at, they got really pissy with me about any filming in their facility. I'm talking like in their hallway, like not even like HIPAA. It's like we want no filming, no, and it's like, okay, that's fine. You know, like it's
Yeah, cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Just, yeah, be open. And if that's
right.
what they say, just know obviously that's going to take precedence over
I have to
whatever.
film my
Yep.
content at
Yeah.
another
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
facility.
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.